with only 1 week left until the release of the new season, I've decided to make a video about the most important questions that still need answers. And hopefully, Season 4 will solve most of them. The questions are not in any particular order, I'll just mention them as they come to mind. And if I forget any, don't hesitate to share them in the comments with the rest of us. Before I start, I want to make a quick side note about all the people complaining that this show hasn't given us any answers so far and that it's boring. First of all, this is a mystery box series, meaning we'll get most of the answers in the final episodes of the show. That means even with Season 4, we still won't get the complete explanation of what that place truly is. Keeping the mystery alive is exactly what the show is supposed to do. That's why we watch it. If everything had been solved in the first season, there would be no reason to keep watching. It's the slow burn that matters. All that buildup will eventually pay off. All those years of waiting, where the producers gave us tiny crumbs, will finally come together, and every piece will fit into the puzzle. This is what a mystery show is supposed to look like. Secondly, I don't understand the hate claiming that the show hasn't answered any questions, because Season 3 actually did a great job answering some of the biggest ones in the fandom. Like who threw the rope to Boyd, or who Jim was talking to over the radio. I'm sure Season 4 will answer many of the questions on this list, so let's get started. Let's begin with the most obvious one. Who is the man in yellow? Is he the ultimate villain of the story? Or is there someone even more powerful above him? How can he walk in daylight? He must have some kind of weakness or strict rules he has to follow, because otherwise it wouldn't be fair for the townspeople. They would just get slaughtered like Jim. Will we actually see him transform into another person? Is that how he infiltrates the town? The most popular theory is that he becomes Sophia, especially after the new mini-trailer, and I agree that this has the highest chance of happening. But here's an even crazier plot twist. What if the man in yellow doesn't transform into Sophia, but into Donna? That would be wild. And if you think about it, it could actually happen. Donna has blonde hair, and what better way to destroy all hope than by turning into one of the pillars of the community? I mentioned in a previous video that this place does everything it can to break people, and we already saw Fatma, who was the symbol of hope in Fromville, completely break down. I believe the smiley pregnancy was a result of losing hope. One of my theories is that hope actually protects you, in the same way the Talismans do. That's why the monsters try so hard to break Boyd. We've already seen Donna starting to lose hope. By the end of Season 3, she's at her limit. So, as painful as it is to say, I think the most heartbreaking twist could be either Donna or Victor being killed. Another important question that still needs an answer, going all the way back to Season 1, is who is the boy in white? We still don't know much about him. He seems to be good and wants to help, but we don't know why. He's clearly not one of the sacrificed children. Their appearances are too different, and he can be seen by multiple people. Meanwhile, the children could only be seen by Tabitha and Jade. Could he be the man in yellow's son? And what about the dogs? What's the connection between them? We've seen that the dogs play an important role in guiding the people of the town. Most people miss this detail, but Boyd actually found the talismans because of a dog. He was out in the forest looking for food when he saw one and decided to follow it. And that's how he discovered the Talisman Cave. With the recently released photo, and thanks to some dedicated fans on Reddit who analyzed all the details, there's a theory suggesting that the mysterious bag hanging over the motel sign might actually contain the dog's body. I believe the dog was killed by the man in yellow, but this raises another question. If the dogs can be killed by other entities, does that mean the boy in white could also be killed by the man in yellow? And if so, why wasn't the dog protected by whatever force controls that place? If we're talking about Boyd and the talismans, another puzzling question is, who created the talismans? Why were they placed there? Is this how the game works? where you make progress and get rewarded for your exploration? Are the talismans the same as the totems we saw in the forest settlement? Is the forest actually divided between different types of monsters? We know that in Season 4 we'll see a new type, the scarecrow monster, and from what we've seen, it attacks people inside wooden cabins. This raises two questions. First, how are the scarecrow monsters different from the smilers, and why are they able to attack people indoors? I know that Jade broke the protective totems when they helped Christy, but here's the thing. They still had their talisman. The townspeople never relied on the totems to stay safe. They relied on the talismans, so I'm sure they had a talisman inside the cabin, and yet it was still attacked by the scarecrow monster. So could this mean that talismans and totems are not the same thing, and that each one protects against a different threat? Another question is how the scarecrow monsters attack them in the forest. We saw them being dug up near Colony House. So did one of them chase the group all the way there? Let me know what you think, because things could definitely get messy for our protagonists. If we're talking about the forest settlement, there are a few more questions that keep me up at night. The most intriguing one is, what did Kenny and Jim hear outside the cabin at night? Kenny said it didn't sound like one of the smilers. It wasn't a scarecrow monster either, since those will only be introduced in the next season. So what was it? One insane theory is that it was Eloise. Yes, Victor's supposedly dead sister might actually be alive, and that would be one of the biggest twists in the show. If I'm being honest, I don't really like the idea, but I still have to mention it. In storytelling, if we don't actually see a character die on screen, there's always a chance they're still alive. Victor said that he thinks the body he buried was his sister because only pieces remained. The show has mentioned multiple times, through Victor, that his sister was very good at hide and seek, and that he could never find her. That detail feels too important to be random, especially coming from Victor, who isn't exactly known for small talk. Because of this, some people believe Eloise is still alive, that she's the one who planted the crops in the forest settlement, and that she was the one outside the cabin. The final question I have about this settlement is, who built it? Which came first, the town or the settlement? As I've said in multiple videos, I believe this place is more important than we think, mainly because it's near running water. I'm really curious to learn more about it because it could be the key to everything. Maybe this settlement is where the original people first arrived. Maybe they came by boat, like we saw in the cave drawings, and settled along that shore. But if that's true, then who built the town? It feels like we're going down a deep rabbit hole here, so let's move on to the next question. Who are the monsters, and why can they only come out at night? Now, I know that the monsters are the parents who sacrifice their children in order to gain immortality. But here's the issue. In the cave drawings, we saw 10 people near the sacrificial stone. 12 if we count the two at the top. Based on what we've learned so far, it seems like those two separated figures could be the original versions of Jade and Tabitha. Meanwhile, when Jade was in the cave, he saw 7 children being sacrificed. That would mean 14 monsters were created. But here's the problem. We've seen way more than 14 monsters in From. So where did the rest come from? Did they sacrifice the entire town, turning every adult into a monster? Or are there specific conditions that someone must meet to become one? Could the voices be connected to this? Maybe if you listen to them, you eventually become a monster. Maybe that was supposed to be Sarah or Elgin's fate. Or maybe the voices have nothing to do with it, and they're actually trying to help. Hopefully Season 4 will finally shed some light on this, because right now, it's impossible to clearly place them in one category. Now, regarding the monsters, what's the deal with the underground tunnels? What secrets do they hide? Why did the monsters go to such length to hide the items deep inside after Tabitha and Victor found them? What's the purpose of collecting personal belongings? Is it just something that reminds the monsters of when they were human, or is there something deeper going on? We'll definitely get answers to these questions. It's been hinted that Jade and Boyd will explore the tunnels, and whatever they discover, there will surely be massive. Speaking of Jade, what's the deal with all the visions he keeps seeing? I understand the ones related to the symbols, but what about the Civil War soldier that keeps hunting him? What's the conflict between Jade and the man with the missing eye? Could we see a similar dynamic this season between Elgin and Jade? What do you think? One of the most puzzling questions dating back to Season 1 is, what dragged Boyd and Sarah's tent? Could it have been a giant spider? That would explain why they ended up in a part of the forest filled with spider webs. I personally believe we will see a spider monster at some point because there's too much evidence pointing in that direction. We have the spider webs, the drawings, and Ethan seeing a spider in his dream. Still, I don't think it will appear this season. We already have the man in yellow and the scarecrow monsters. Adding spiders on top of that might be too much. That's why I think the spiders will be saved for Season 5. And because of that, they could end up being even more dangerous than the man in yellow. Just to be clear, I'm 100% sure that the red creature in the cave drawings is not Smiley being reborn. I've seen a lot of people believe this, but it doesn't make sense narratively. That drawing likely represents the first sacrifice, the ritual that gave them immortality. So why would they depict themselves being reborn? How would they even know what that process looks like? Wouldn't it make more sense to draw the entity that granted them that power? Another big mystery is the lighthouse. Why is it so important? What is a lighthouse doing in the middle of the forest? What was that ship horn that Boyd, Sarah, and Tabitha heard? Are the children actually trapped there, or is it just a red herring? And how did Tabitha manage to escape? How does that even work? Was Abby right all along that in order to return to the real world, you first have to die in Fromville? And if that's the case, why did Tabitha end up in Camden, Maine? Why not somewhere like Arizona or Colorado? Is the person who built the lighthouse the same one who built the dungeon, where we saw Martin, Randall, Julie, and Marielle chained? What exactly is that place? Is it even real, or is it some kind of alternate dimension separate from Fromville? And who is Martin? How did he know about Abby but not about Boyd? Who was he referring to when he told Boyd to leave before they come back? I don't think he was talking about the melody. I think he meant something far worse. Why did Julie, Randall, and Marielle experience different symptoms after waking up? Why does Julie hear people screaming? Why does Randall still see cicadas? And what exactly is Marielle going through? I believe we'll finally learn more about Marielle's struggle, especially since in the Season 4 trailer we hear her say, "There is something ancient here, and it's feeding off our suffering, and it doesn't stop." I think she's telling Christy that this ancient entity is feeding specifically on the three of them. And speaking of the three of them, why were they chosen in the first place? Was it random, or is there a deeper reason? Could this be why Randall was spared? Because he was somehow claimed by the dungeon, and the monsters were too afraid to kill him? The next set of questions focuses on Victor, and the most pressing one is, what really happened on the night everyone died? Who killed all those people? Was it the monsters, Christopher, or some new entity that appeared? Did everyone die because Miranda died, and without her they couldn't save the children? Does that mean the cycle failed and everyone had to die in order for it to reset? How did Victor even manage to survive alone for such a long period of time? Did the monsters let him live because they didn't care about him, or was he protected by a higher force? What does it mean that the trees are moving? What's the purpose behind it? Is it connected to the changing weather in Fromville? And if so, why is the weather so important to that place? Do you think that in Season 4 we'll finally learn how the faraway trees work? Why does the same tree send different people to different locations? Is there some kind of logic behind it, or is it just random? Could it be tied to intention or visualization? Are only certain people able to pass through them? Do you need to fulfill a purpose before you're allowed to pass through safely? And if you try to rush things, do you end up dead? Is the fallen tree in the road connected to the faraway trees or the bottle tree? What happens if you get out of the car and walk past it? Would you still end up in Fromville, or would you escape the curse entirely? How are the crows connected to everything? Are they good or bad? Could they be linked to the voices Sarah hears? What if the souls of the people who died there remain trapped as voices, doomed to stay until someone breaks the cycle? Could those voices be the reason the radio turns on randomly? Are they actually trying to communicate with the people in the town? Who is the person calling the Matthews family? Is it the same entity as the man in yellow, or are they two completely separate forces? I think these are the main questions I still have about the show. I'm sure we'll get more answers in Season 4, especially about the underground tunnels. The producers have said that by the end of the season, we'll understand everything we need to know about Fromville. So I'm really excited to see how it all unfolds. There's only 1 week left to wait. Let me know in the comments if I missed any important questions. And as always, thank you for watching.